In the previous video, we created a main menu, and in this main menu we have the skins, which don't work yet because we haven't coded them. So if I click on skins, I go to the store of our game. I click on something. It tells me that I have selected this thing in the console. It displays a message, but nothing happens for now. We still have to code this part. And we'll do it now. First, we'll need a bit more space. I'll go into the canvas and increase the size of the shop items. To do this, I'll select the skins here and I'll put them in center mode instead of pivot mode, which will put the slider right in the middle. I increase the size of the items like this. Be careful not to go over the areas of the screen, so not too close to the edge. Here I have a bit more room, we're good. I'll deactivate the shop and we'll create some skins, as right now we don't have any. For the moment, I'll just customize the texture of the cat. For this, we need to find it. I haven't looked at it yet. I go to free cat texture, there we have the cat diffuse, which is the texture of the cat. I'll right click, show in Explorer to display the texture here in the Explorer. So we select the texture to get it. I'll use Photoshop as usual, but you can use any software. You even have software directly accessible online, which don't need installation. I import the texture in Photoshop and then I'll simply adjust the color to create different skins. We can go to Image, Settings, we can go in hue and saturation. There we can make a turquoise cat, for example. File, Save As. Here we'll have the possibility of saving our texture and I call it number 1. This will be skin 1. Image, settings, hue and saturation. Let's have a look. I can create a blue cat, file, save as, and I'll create the cat with skin number 2. I'm going to fast forward the video while I'm creating more texture. Okay, I have created 9 textures since we have 9 possible skins, and I renamed the first one as cat texture 0. This allows me to have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which corresponds to the 9 possible textures. I go into Unity. As you can see, it automatically imports the textures. Here, the cat lost its texture as I renamed it. If you look at the cat here, it doesn't have any texture anymore. So what we're going to do is create a script to manage the cat's texture. I go to the scripts folder and right click, create C# script, and I'll call it cat skins. We'll delete everything that's in there and then we'll create a variable that will be public. It will be an array of textures 2D. It will be an array of 2D textures because we need variables of type 2D textures to be able to apply a texture to our character, and I'll call it skins. It will be an array of skins. Then I'll create a public variable of type material. I'll call it cat material. This will be a reference to the material of the cat to let us modify the texture of the material so we can apply a skin. Then I create a variable. I'll put it in public, but normally it doesn't need to be as as we'll set it from our code, but setting it public will allow you to visualize the result in the inspector. I put everything in public so you can really see what it does in the inspector, but this is not a variable that is necessarily accessible via the inspector. It's just to show you. So this variable will be of type int, and it will be the selected skin. Then I'll use the awake function, which is triggered at the beginning of the game, and I write if player's prefs. So player prefs is a class that allows you to store or retrieve data on or from the user's phone. It allows you to save information on the phone, like for example an int will store an information, a number, and it will keep the information even if the user quits the game, even if the user turns off the phone. It will make a backup in the phone memory. So we write player prefs.getInt, getInt which allows you to retrieve a value, data from the phone. In brackets, it takes a parameter as parameter the name of the value you want to retrieve. Here, selected skin. Well, not to be confused with this variable, I gave the same name, but I could have write var1 here and var2 there. They are two different things. So if players pref.getIn, well, no, sorry, I won't do an if. We can do better, my bad. I'm going to say that selected skin, so my variable here, which has no value, I say that selected skin is equal to player prefs.getIn selected skin. That means that I'm getting this information from the phone memory, and this function will return the stored value. Obviously, if you run the game for the first time, there will be no value stored on the phone. If the user has never saved, there will be no value. That's why I wanted to do an if, but I changed my mind. Basically, I wanted to do an if and say if this value is different from null or different from nothing, then we do that. But in fact, this function can take two parameters, even if it's not mandatory. The first parameter is mandatory, it's the value we want to retrieve, and the second parameter is the default value. I can say that the default value is 0, and so whatever happens, this function will return something. Either we have this data stored in the phone's memory, or we don't have this data stored at all, in which case we say that the default value is 0. So in the awake, we retrieve the selected skin, and then I'll do cat material.texture is equal to, if we look at main texture, we see that it's a texture. I've put an array of 2D textures, so I'll put an array of textures since it's waiting for a texture. And I say that the texture associated to the material of the cat is equal to skins, which contains the list of all the textures. And in the square brackets, we'll say which texture we want to apply from our list of textures. And the texture we want to apply is this one, it's selected skin. So it will get a texture via its ID and apply it to our cat material. Now, if we look at the cat, where is it? There. We have our cat, we can apply the cat skin script to it. Our cat skin script needs an array of skins. I'll put 9, because we have a total of 9 possible skins. We'll drag it from 0 up to 8. This is the list of textures I prepared on Photoshop. This is all the possible textures for the cat. Here, I define them. Then we need the cat material. It's hidden in there, I think. I don't know how the designer created his 3D model, but we've got the cat here, and there are the cat materials here. I'll take the cat and drag it over there. Oh, no, he doesn't want to be dragged. No worries, I go directly to it. Here I go directly to cat material, which is the material applied to the cat. I drag it here, so I have access to the material automatically. And just to test the selected skin, since the variable is public, I have access to it. Remember, I told you it wasn't necessary, but just to show you, I'll put -1, being a value that doesn't exist. As you can't go to the -1 index of an array, I'm setting a variable that doesn't mean anything on purpose. I run the game, and normally the player's pref will get the value 0, because I said that if you can't find anything on the hard drive, the value must be 0. I run the game. There, you see that selected skin goes to 0, and that I have the texture number 0, which has been applied to the cat. Had I used the cat material, which is the one applied on the cat, when we modify the texture of the cat material here, it modifies the texture of the cat's look. I'll put the blue texture, for example, automatically the cat becomes blue. Here, we have access to the different textures. We have the possibility to modify all the cat's textures to be able to modify the skin. When we leave the game, it keeps in memory the last texture that has been applied, but if I restart the game, it's the information stored in the phone's memory that will be loaded. Okay, we have seen how to apply a skin to the cat, and what we'll do now is go back to the skin selector. And if you remember, we wrote a to-do to code as a reminder to code this function. So what we'll do now is player prefs.setInt. We've got get to get and set to set, get and set. So we write player prefs.setInt, and what was the name of my variable? I call it selected skin. Alright, setting of selected skin, the player prefs is key value, key value. So when I do a set int, it means that I want to define an int. The key is this one, and the value will be skin ID, which is the ID of the clicked skin. So it will store in the phone's memory this value. Okay. So here we have a problem. If I look at my canvas and at my shop here, I don't know which box corresponds to which skin. Thing is, I need to have 2D textures to be able to apply it to the material, but a 2D texture is not a sprite, and so I can't apply it. So what I need to do is to duplicate this, Control D. I'll put in sprite mode here, all the duplicated elements. Now I can replace, put sprite 1, sprite 2, and so on. 0, 1, 2, yeah, I'll stop here. I just prepared the first 3 skins and yikes, it's not nice at all. Putting the texture directly doesn't look good. What we should do is to take the 3D model of the cat that's hiding there. Here we have access to the prefab. This prefab, you can position it somewhere. Yeah, find a position that suits you. You take a picture of this image. In Photoshop, you can do Control N, OK, Control V to paste a picture. Here we'll do File, Save As. I'll save it in PNG format, and I'll call it Skin1. Now, I have Skin1 that appears, and I put it in sprite mode. Okay, and there on the first skin, instead of putting directly the texture, I'll put the image of the cat, and I have the real image of the cat, which will appear here. I won't do this again, it would be repetitive, but I let you do it on your side, create nice images for each skin. All you have to do is replace the texture, take a picture, create a sprite from the picture, and apply it here so you have your different skins. Here, I'm showing you the manipulation once, and you can repeat it. Now, we have the possibility to see the skins. We'll test the project. Good. I launch the game and we should still have something to fix. Look, I select the blue skin, I play, and my cat is brown, which is not normal. On the other hand, look, I quit, cat is brown, I launch the game, and now the cat is blue, which is normal because it's the skin I selected. But I have to wait for the next game before being able to play with the skin I selected. The problem is that the cat has the skin script which will modify the skin of the cat, but it modifies the skin only in the awake. So it means only when the game starts. But when the player makes the skin selection, we didn't apply the modification yet. So if we look at the script of the skin selector, we don't apply the new texture to the cat. We just save in the memory the information of the skin which was selected. Now, we need to create a public variable that will be of type cat skin, call it CS. And when I select my skin, I'll access the cat skin script, which is this one, and I say cat skin dot set skin in brackets skin ID. So I call the cat skin script and I call a set skin function, which is in the cat skin script, and I pass to it the skin ID value. This function doesn't exist yet, we'll have to create it. I go into cat skin and I'll make a public void set skin function, and in brackets it will take an int which will be the skin ID. This function will just do cat material dot main texture is equal to skin, except that instead of taking the selected skin, we can take the skin ID here. In fact, the selected skin would have worked because we are first saving into the player prefs and then calling this function, but I wanted to show you how to call a function with a parameter. Okay, now the skin selector not only saves the information in the memory, but also asks the cat skin script to modify the skin in real time. Now, we'll test it, but first you must go to the shop which has a skin selector script, and we must drag the cat here, which has the cat skin script. It's important because it needs to have the reference to have access to this script. Let's run the game. I go into skins, select the green one, and it changes the cat immediately. Skins, brown one, hop, change it again. I can play with my new skin, start the game, restart the game, and the cat keeps its texture because it was saved in the phone's memory. Okay, we have succeeded in making a skin selector and then storing the information on the user's phone. I won't do more in the course, but what I invite you to do, in addition to the skins, is the cat's hats to have objects to be collected. You can create a whole bunch of collectibles, and the more collectibles you have in your mobile games, the more players will come back and want to keep playing to unlock more and more things. That's the trick to increase retention in your game. You will have much more chances to break through and succeed in this area. It won't be more complicated than what I've shown you here, so you really have all the keys to do this. Okay, so I invite you to practice and continue to implement such features on your side, and then I'll see you in the next video.